Hello everyone, this is Ocean Channel. This time I have some stories that I really liked. My wife and I are raising 3 children, all of whom are under the age of 12. So I try to put the kids to bed before 21 o'clock with Quinn. In general, I want the children to follow a certain schedule all the time and get used to it from childhood. At least that's how my parents raised me, and I think it's right. My wife has been working as a marketer for a long time. This month, she was offered to go to a new store in another region. Because of this, Quinn threw off her schedule a bit and couldn't get in touch with me in time. We agreed that Quinn would call at 8 in the evening, and maybe even earlier so that the children would have time to talk to her. The first week after Quinn left home was not very difficult, and she called regularly until 21st. But then things started to get worse. Quinn started calling much later every day. So when Quinn called after 21 o'clock for almost the entire week, I told her that I would not wake up the kids every night to talk to them because it disrupts their sleep schedule, and Quinn kept calling later and later, as if our children's sleep schedule was not important to her. And our children are very active and have a lot of tasks every day, so they need sleep like food. In the following days, my wife stopped calling us at home altogether. After 3 days of silence, I decided to call Quinn and ask what was going on. She was very busy and said she couldn't talk, but she said it in a very rude tone. In the evening, after 10 o'clock, we were able to talk to her. Quinn was angry with me for not letting her talk to the children. If I hadn't tried to prove to her that it wouldn't be good for the children to talk on the phone so late, Quinn continued to resent me. My mom told me that I was not doing anything wrong and that Quinn was just stressed right now and was talking nonsense. Even when I told Quinn she could call 20 minutes later, she didn't agree to that. How can I find a common language with my wife? Brayden, my wife also likes to work hard, but she and I have never had a question about our children's schedule because we know very well how important it is for them to have a good night's sleep. Even if you couldn't get along with Quinn right now, it doesn't mean it will always be like that. You just need to understand that she is very tired and misses her family, so maybe she is reacting so sharply. You shouldn't think about it too much right now and be nervous. Your mom is right, so just breathe out and go on with your parenting duties. Nev, perhaps you can express your concerns about the children's routines, but also try to understand the pressure Quinn may be under at work. I myself used to have fights with my husband because of his job. You would not believe what just talking to your partner can do. I think you should just talk to Quinn when she gets home. She can't be mad at you all the time over something so small. I can understand if you just wanted to do something bad for your wife because of your personality, but you do everything out of love for your children, so I don't think you're wrong. Roman, it's clear that you care about maintaining a consistent schedule for the kids, and that's commendable. Perhaps in a quiet moment, express your concerns and ask her how you can support each other in managing the children's daily routines and manage the work pressure at the same time. Because you seem to think only about the children, forgetting that your wife also needs attention and support. I can even admit that you have a certain wrong attitude about all this too. I advise you to reconsider your attitude towards Quinn. Next story. My dad's birthday is coming up soon. I decided that I would give him something unusually cool. My dad Avon has been a carpenter for 20 years. He even made his own small workshop where a lot of people came to visit. I can say that his small business brought a good profit to live on and save money. So when I now have the opportunity to do something valuable for him, I decided that I would partially buy some new tools for him, especially since he tells me from time to time what old tools he has used in recent years. Once I overheard my dad complaining about his workbench and jigsaw. It took me about 2 days to find some quality materials for my dad, Avon, and in the end, I was never interested in such tools. So it was a new life challenge for me. At the last minute, I found a cool new table for the workbench on the internet, and I could also order a new set of tools there, like a saw, a hammer, and some other little things. The whole order was about $3,000. It was really not a small amount for a gift, but for the sake of my dad, I could afford it. Since Evan loves to tinker, I immediately thought he would love it. In my opinion, it was much better than me buying the same tools he asked me for. And knowing my dad, I expected a few reactions. Either he would be happy to have newer tools so that his work would be faster, or my dad would be upset that I spent so much money on it. I thought it would be a great birthday present. My dad was asking me what I had come up with this year, but I managed to hold back and not give away my gift despite my dad's interest. I wanted it to be a surprise, so I decided to keep it a secret. When the time came to give the gifts, I was a little nervous. I was the only one who didn't bring my gift to the house. In the morning, my brother and I brought all the new things to our dad's workshop. I told my dad to come with me to his workshop. When he came in, he saw the new table and the tools on it. My dad had a smile on his face for no more than 5 seconds. Suddenly, he went from being happy to being a little upset. My dad went to the table and started looking at everything. Everyone there was holding their breath waiting for what he would say. Evan turned to us and started to speak. "Thank you so much for this generous gift, but you didn't have to spend so much on me and buy all these things. I only needed to buy new lamps and a saw for the tree. That's all I really wanted." I was saddened that my dad was more upset than happy about this gift. I even had to apologize for giving him such a big gift. Things got worse when my dad started telling me in front of his guests, "Son, when you asked me to buy you a new uniform for sports, I bought you that, not a new set of toys." No matter how hard I tried to tell my dad that all these tools would make his life easier, it didn't comfort him at all. Then my dad started looking up prices for this product and was able to estimate my expenses. Even said that it would be better if I set aside that amount of money for myself and not spend more than $400 on his gift. I was hurt because I had put a lot of effort into my gift. My face looked like I was about to cry like a child. My dad came up to me and said he was glad he had such a caring son. A little stupid son, but who loves his dad? Almost 1 month has passed since then. My dad started using the new desk, but that's all he took from the gift. The rest of the tools are just lying around in his garage somewhere, waiting to be used. This really upset me. It's like my dad is showing me that I made a mistake, and he won't use those things out of principle. I feel a little weird about it, like I made something good, but nobody wants it. Ivy, man, you did the best you could for your dad. He's just a bit of a prideful asshole. Yeah, it's pride, not some kind of good desire. If I were him, I would be very happy that my son cares about me so much. Evan just doesn't think he did anything wrong and thinks you wasted your money. Even so, it is his right to use the things you gave him or not. You're only making yourself worse because of your emotions. I can't imagine how bad you felt at that moment. Sadie, what you did when you bought new tools for your father's workshop was really thoughtful. It reflects your understanding of his passion for carpentry and your desire to support his work. The effort you put into finding quality materials and tools was commendable. So I don't understand your dad's reaction at all. It was very strange for him to react like that. So many elderly people don't get anything at all for their holidays. So Evan should be proud of you and not say something stupid. Ezekiel, it's clear that you wanted to solve the problems your dad was talking about when he mentioned the workbench and jigsaw. However, it is important to realize that personal preferences and needs can be subjective. In the future, perhaps having a more detailed conversation about his specific tool preferences will help to avoid mismatched expectations. Communication plays a crucial role in gift giving. It can happen that you give something important, and the person simply could not appreciate such generosity. How did your mother even live with him all this time? Your father must be very fond of expressing what he is unhappy about. A new interesting story. Almost all my life I was raised by my Uncle Adam and my Aunt Adeline. My mom didn't want to take full-time care of me when my dad left the family. I would see my mom or dad every few months when they came to visit me. Eventually, my dad stopped coming to see me and my mom followed him. To my surprise, I did not miss them. From that moment on, my parents were my uncle and his wife. This year, I plan to celebrate 2 holidays for myself. I was promoted at work, and it was also my birthday. I thought about the guest list for a while and decided that I could invite my parents. In fact, Adeline really asked me to do this to give my parents a chance. A few days ago, I talked to my mom. She wants another name on her invitation. I haven't seen my mom in 4 years, so I thought that maybe she and her guest have another child. That she didn't mention on purpose. Still, I came to the conclusion that if my own mother had a new partner, and I hadn't seen her for so many years, it was logical that she had a child. My mother is very fond of small children, so I can't rule out this fact. I don't have a problem with small children, but I wouldn't want it to cause any problems at the celebration. I had to call my mother again to settle these issues. I told her that she and her boyfriend could be invited to the party as a courtesy, and that they had no parental privileges. My mother reacted strangely to this. She didn't like the fact that she wouldn't be able to say any congratulations or toasts in the middle of the holiday. She also didn't like the fact that I asked her and her husband to draw less attention to themselves. My mother also added that if she had known how my aunt and uncle would raise me, she would never have left me to be raised by them. I talked to my aunt and uncle about this situation. My uncle Adam then told me, maybe your mother was going to use your holiday to introduce this guy to the family. After thinking about Adam's words, I decided to write to my own mother. I changed my mind about inviting you and your boyfriend to my birthday party. I also wrote that she shouldn't even try to come to the cafe where the party will be held, because I asked the security guards not to let in people who are not invited to the party. Then I also talked to the manager of the cafe. After explaining the situation a little bit, I told him that maybe uninvited guests would try to get to my celebration. He said that security would escort anyone who tried to enter the cafe and would call the police if necessary. So I was calm that nothing else would prevent me from holding my important celebration. By the way, I didn't bother my dad and let him come to the party, but I'm going to go ahead and say that he never came. After my mom read that message, she complained to everyone, saying how rude I am and not wanting to create a new relationship with her and her boyfriend. I was confidently dealing with it and even had to explain to my relatives several times why my mom didn't come to the celebration. After the holiday, I saw several messages from my mom. In them, she started accusing me of telling strangers about her personal life. My mom said that I behaved very rudely, and now she won't even try to talk to me. Not that I was upset by this, but I think this situation affected my inner state. What should I have done in this situation? Ian, interesting story. I'd like to give my opinion on this. It's understandable that you wanted to avoid potential drama at the celebration, but not inviting your mom and her boyfriend may have been a bit much. Perhaps a more open conversation about your concerns and setting clear boundaries would have been a better approach. This kind of disconnect could have consequences for your relationship in the long run, because that's pretty much how I lost contact with my brother. Although it might be good for you to stop having contact with your birth parents forever, they don't really want to be around you anyway. Haley, such a breakup can have unintended consequences for your relationship. That could have been handled with more empathy and understanding. Cutting off communication completely could create unnecessary tension and lead to negative consequences. Reconsidering your decision and having an honest conversation can help restore a strained relationship. Even after all that has already happened between you and your mom, I was raised by loving parents, and I can tell you that if you lose all contact with them, it will not go away. Austin, your uncle is absolutely right. I have seen many times when close people used other people and their events for their own purposes. So Adam's version is quite true. I think you did the right thing when you decided that your mother and her boyfriend shouldn't be at your party. After all, you hadn't seen her in 4 years, and I'm sure your reunion must have been awkward and emotional. And what kind of mother is she to you? If she hasn't been interested in your life for 4 years, draw your conclusions and move on. The next story. Not so long ago, I moved to another city with my mother Gianna on a permanent basis. I took my mom with me because I didn't want to leave her alone in her old house. My mom is now 44 years old and has very little contact with anyone. So my mom agreed very easily when I said she could come with me. She quit her job to come with me. I told her that I could support both of us while she looked for a new job. My mom told me after we moved to the new house that she wanted to focus on finishing the magazine she was working on and look for a job at the same time. Our move was already about 4 months away. We also took our pets with us. We have a cat and a small parrot. My cat, Furball, is quite picky about food and eats almost nothing but food. But like all cats, Furball loves fish. However, he can't eat fish bones because he can choke on them, or the bone can get stuck in his throat or stomach. Since my mom is at home during the day, she takes him for walks and walks with him for a while. On one of these walks, my mother Gianna met Santiago. This man was not very young. He was about the same age as my mother. Maybe Santiago is even a little younger than her. Santiago has 2 children in his care from his brother, who are now 11 and 12 years old. Santiago lives alone and raises these children without help from anyone. So when Santiago and my mom met, they hit it off pretty quickly. I was thrilled that my mom was finally able to find at least one person with whom she felt comfortable. That week on a weekday, my mom made a delicious pie and went to Santiago's house. She also took a cat with her because the children told her that they really wanted a pet. Gianna stayed at her new friend's house almost all day. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my cat Furball coughing. I examined the cat, but didn't see anything wrong with him. So I went to my mom to ask her what happened yesterday. My mom did not give me any specific information about my cat. Gianna called Santiago to ask what the children might have eaten yesterday, or what they mostly play with in their room. Santiago said that the children played as usual with Lego toys or on the console in the room. I began to wonder what he had fed the children the last day. Santiago mentioned that before my mother came, he had cooked potatoes and fish for the children, and that after Gianna left his house, he saw a small plate of fish in the children's room that they could not finish. I was very concerned about this and asked him what the average portion of fish was. Santiago replied that he could not say because the children took as much as they wanted. I immediately took my cat Furball to the vet. He started treatment but wanted to keep the cat for observation. In the end, he had to stay for 3 days, but he will live. The doctor told me that my cat would need to be on a special diet for several months because the cat had to undergo a bone grafting operation. The total bill is almost $3,000, and the medications and diet for my cat should also be included in these procedures. Of course, I told my mom that I wanted her or Santiago to pay the bill or at least help with it. My mom started to say that Santiago was raising the kids on his own and providing them with everything they needed, so she is not going to ask him to help pay such a huge bill. Gianna also said that she didn't have that kind of money because she hadn't found a job yet and her magazine hadn't gone on sale yet. I told her that it was time to find a job as soon as possible because it wouldn't be right if they got away with it. But my mom didn't stop there. She started making excuses that the kids didn't know what they were doing, so it was just an accident. My response to this argument was very simple. If she and Santiago had really looked after my cat and children, this would not have happened, and since they were the adults in this situation, they were the ones who were supposed to be looking after the children and the cat properly. Regardless, something bad happened by accident or on purpose. In the end, everyone will agree with me. If my cat scratched one of the children or caused any damage, obviously, I would be expected to help pay for any costs associated with that. So I don't see how this is different from other cases. My mom asked me not to start demanding money from Santiago, which he doesn't have much of anyway. But Gianna doesn't tell me what to do about it. I think I'm not doing anything wrong in this case. Valentina, I feel sorry for everyone at the same time, but I realize that you are right in this situation. Like, what does your mother expect? That you paid your personal money for a situation you weren't even in. Even if you paid for it, there would be no situation. If your mother hadn't decided to spoil her kids and brought the furball to someone else's house. Therefore, your mother Gianna is probably the most guilty party in this story. This is the most obvious fact I can see. Alora, it is understandable that you are upset, and I understand why you are looking for help with your bills. However, perhaps instead of immediately asking your mother and Santiago to cover all the expenses, you could discuss a more reasonable solution with them. They may not have enough money to cover all the expenses, but maybe they can make some kind of contribution. As a last resort, let them pay you back in installments and sincerely apologize for what happened. I am honestly very sorry for your cat. It must be very stressful for him. Jordan, I heard about what happened to Furball, and I can imagine how stressful this must be for you. It's understandable that you need help with your veterinary bills. I think that focusing on finding a solution rather than finding someone to blame could lead to a more positive outcome. For everyone involved in this tragedy, what good would it do you to know that your mother is the only one to blame? I'm sure that no crisis is worth your relationship with Gianna and Santiago. A new interesting story. I have now been living with my new wife Piper for 6 years. Piper and I have a child together who is 4 years old. I also have my own son with my ex-wife Lydia. My son Xavier loves to play computer games, so he and my new wife's daughter often sit at the laptop, which actually belongs to Alexa, my wife's daughter. It never bothered me that they were playing games or watching videos on a laptop. One evening, while I was doing my own thing, Alexa came to me and told me that my son had broken the screen on her laptop. I went to the room where the kids were and saw that my son was trying to do something with the screen. Xavier told me he didn't mean to break the laptop screen, but Alexa didn't want to agree to watch a video he liked. so he got a little aggressive and emotional when he waved his hand and hit the screen and it cracked. The next day, I had to cancel my plans and go to a laptop repair service. Replacing the screen for such a laptop cost about $400. Not the biggest sum, but the holidays were coming up, and every penny counted for the holidays. I told my son because it was his fault. I will have to give him much less pocket money for 3 months. Xavier didn't agree with this, but after a while he finally admitted his guilt. A few days later, I got a call from Lydia. She said she wanted to give our son a laptop or computer. I explained to her the whole situation that had happened not so long ago. Lydia said she didn't care, and that the computer should belong to our son Xavier and no one else. My ex was not interested in our son correcting his own mistake with someone else's laptop. I told our son, in that case, you will be grounded for the new year. We were supposed to go to her parents' house for the holiday with Piper and the kids, but now the circumstances are somewhat different. I told Xavier that he will spend this new year with us, but I will not allow him to celebrate with everyone. My son told Lydia about it. She was very angry when she found out. Lydia demanded that I take Xavier to her house for the holidays, because in her opinion, I had been very harsh with our son. Lydia told her friends what a proud asshole I was for not being able to pay for my own son. In my opinion, my son got a punishment that would give him something to think about. Jose, I'm sorry that the laptop incident caused tension in your family during the holidays. Disciplining your son for his actions is understandable, but it may be helpful to consider alternative approaches to punishment and to facilitate experiences that will help him learn. Instead of limiting his pocket money, talk to him about responsibility and empathy so that he understands the consequences of his actions. This may also be an opportunity for you and Lydia to agree on parenting strategies. Like, if my dad punished me like that, it would be hard for me to have an adequate relationship with him later. I think your wife is right and you really went overboard. Jace, co-parenting can be challenging, especially when discipline comes into play. Instead of punishing Xavier on New Year's Day, consider talking to Lydia and discussing a unified approach. I understand that your son has caused trouble, but punishing him in this way is definitely not okay. You would also take away his right to eat every Tuesday at 6. There are easier ways to solve such problems. You needed to talk to Xavier and explain some things in the social space. And what did you do? That's right, you decided to let your son be alone for the whole holiday. That's really bad, dude. At the very least, normal parents would not punish their child like that. Who admitted his guilt and did not begin to prove his innocence. So reconsider your decision and don't act like a sheep.